Housing is one of the most expensive line items in most families' budget, and at times, how you structure your housing costs can make or break your finances. So in today's video, we're going to deep dive into 12 practical ways to lower your housing cost. And hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. The number one, and probably the most effective way to reduce housing costs is to move to a more affordable housing market, potentially out of state. The general rule of thumb when it comes to housing costs is to spend no more than 25% to 30% of your gross income. However, in many parts of the country, this is really hard to do because of the real estate market. Orange County, where I currently live, is considered one of the most expensive housing markets in the United States. According to the latest Redfin report, the median home price in Orange County is about $1 million. Move a few states over to Des Moines, Iowa, and the median home price is now a little more than $200,000. Now, you may not have big reasons to move to Iowa, but the fact is that the most expensive housing markets in the US have an average home price multiple times the national average. On average, about 3 times. Therefore, if you want to lower your housing cost and you have no major reason to continue living in your high cost of living area, you might want to consider moving to a more affordable housing market out of state. Your income will only decrease slightly, but your housing costs could get cut in half overnight. But hey, you might be saying, that sounds nice in theory, but I have family or work situation that keeps me from moving. Then what? Not a problem. Let's get into the next way. The number 2 way to reduce housing costs is to consider moving further from the city. If you can't move out of state, at least consider moving to an area near you with lower housing cost. Most often further away from the metropolitan areas and toward suburbs or rural areas. One major factor to consider with this move is, however, the commuting cost. If you have to drive an hour and a half each way to get to and from work, this might not be the best option. However, if there's a really reliable and affordable public transportation from your place of residence to your place of work, this could work out. Or if your company allows you remote work arrangement, either full-time or even a few days out of the week, this could make this arrangement workable. The number 3 way to reduce housing costs is to consider a smaller home. A big house with a big yard. It's the American dream. If we're successful, we must own a large home to show the world how successful we are. However, studies show that we actually use a very small percentage of our home. A study published in the Wall Street Journal showed that the majority of families' time was spent in the kitchen, the bathroom, and the dining table. Pretty much where we eat, clean, and hang out. All the other fancy spaces that come with a large home, the entertainment room, the formal dining room, and even the patio barely got any use. Additionally, if we have a large home, there's a natural pressure to fill it with stuff. More furniture, more decoration, more gadgets, and more toys. More expenses out of our wallet. The thing you own end up owning you. If you want to save money on housing, consider the optimal size of your home. Even if you can afford more, less will give you more flexibility and room to save and invest more for the future. A quick interruption before we move on. If you haven't yet downloaded your free copy of my 10-step guide to securing your family's financial future, I highly recommend you do so today. Not only is this a great free resource for your financial journey, but you'll also be joining my email newsletter. Newsletter where you can connect with me directly, as well as be the first to know regarding any new services or products I plan on offering in the future. Please go to my website at financialtortoise.com and download your free copy today. I'll also have a link in the description below. Alright, with that said, let's get back to the video. The number 4 way to reduce housing costs is to really weigh the renting versus buying when considering your housing arrangement. As mentioned earlier, home ownership is synonymous with achieving the American dream. Therefore, many buy and own their home without doing a real cost-to-benefit analysis. Buying because they were socialized to, and because their friends told them to, and because their realtor and the bank told them this was the right time. However, a lot of times, renting can actually be the best choice. Renting not only gives you flexibility, but in many markets, is actually a cheaper alternative to buying. The median rent of a 3-bedroom home in Orange County is almost $4,000. If you recall earlier, the average home price is approximately $1 million. When we add in property taxes and insurance, the monthly housing payment cost to own could be double the rent. And this doesn't even include the cost of upfront renovation and ongoing maintenance. Always run the numbers to ensure it makes sense. Renting comes with a lot of benefits that shouldn't be overlooked and could be a sure way to lower your overall housing cost. The number 5 way to reduce housing costs, and this is where we start to get a bit creative, is to consider a job that offers housing as an added benefit. It could be completely free housing or even subsidized housing. This was a huge benefit when I was in the military. Most often when I was stationed at a military base where there was ample on-base housing, the Army would essentially allow me to live rent-free. Not only was my work a walking distance from where I lived, but usually this included all the utilities as well. If there weren't enough on-base housing, the military has something called the Basic Housing Allowance. Essentially money to cover service members' housing and related costs in the civilian market when government housing wasn't available. Therefore, when I was in the military, I never really had to worry about whether I could afford housing because it was all taken care of for me. Now, I'm not saying everyone should join the military just for the housing benefit, but depending on where you're at with your career, seeking jobs with a housing benefit could be an option to reduce your overall housing cost. Jobs that I've seen provide free or subsidized housing are these: international educator. If you're willing to live overseas to teach English or any other subject you're an expert in, many places provide free housing as an incentive to recruit talented educators. Travel nurse. Many hospitals struggle to fill all their positions with full-time regular staff. Thus, they not only provide higher pay for travel nurses, but free housing to incentivize contract renewals. Personal chef. If you have culinary skills, you might be able to work as a personal chef in a private residence of a high net worth family. Of course, you'll likely be living in a detached building behind a mansion, but at least you don't have to pay rent. Number 6 way to reduce housing costs. Another creative solution. Consider house hacking. House hacking simply is finding a creative way for someone else to cover your housing expenses. Some common ways I've seen people do are these: rent out a spare bedroom and use the rent to help offset your home mortgage cost. Rent out the extra bedroom on Airbnb. It requires a bit more work, but if you can manage the process, you could technically be bringing in more money each month. The more classic model is this: buy a multi-family property, move into one unit, and rent out the others so your neighbors pay your mortgage. Again, this one requires a lot more work than renting out your spare bedroom, but if you can pull it off, you could technically be living rent-free without joining the army. The number 7 way to reduce housing costs, and this one isn't for everyone, but if you have some special skills, you can consider a live and flip. Essentially buying a fixer-upper, moving it and renovating it at your own pace, then selling it for a tidy profit and repeating the process. You aren't saving housing costs on a month-to-month basis, but you can make a hefty profit when you sell the house. And because you're living in the house, not just buying it to flip it, you'll get a better interest rate from the bank. And if you live in the property for at least 1 year, you'll pay lower long-term capital gains tax. Hold it for 2 years and your first $250,000 in profit, or $500,000 if you're married, are tax-free due to the homeowner exemption. But this strategy requires some special skills.
I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
You need to not only know how to do basic home maintenance, but likely know how to replace tiles, paint walls, and install appliances, all of which I am completely inept at. But if there's something that interests you, this could be a strategy to take a closer look at. My friend Carl, also known as Mr. 1500, has done 5 of these live-in flips and have made quite a bit of profit from it. Not in tens of thousands, but in hundreds of thousands. If you'd like to learn more about the ins and outs of this strategy, I'll have a link to his blog in the description below. Alright, but let's say you don't want to take extreme measures when it comes to your housing arrangement. You aren't looking to join the army, move overseas, or learn how to MacGyver your house. Not a problem. Let's get into what you can do with your current home to lower your current housing cost. The number 8 way to reduce housing cost. Work on getting an excellent credit score. Interest rates have a major impact on your mortgage payment, and your credit score has the greatest impact on your ability to borrow money at the best current rate. Financial companies save the best rate for their safest and best borrowers because they know based on statistics, these borrowers will pay back money borrowed on time and in full. And a good to excellent credit score like 700 to 800 is the best indicator to identify who the safest and best borrowers are. When you notice that the interest rates are dropping below your current mortgage rate, consider refinancing with your excellent credit score. To have the best credit score possible, I recommend concentrating on these 2 factors: making all your debt payment on time and keeping your credit utilization ratio low as possible. These 2 factors have the biggest influence on how your rating is calculated. A strategy I like to use to keep my credit utilization ratio low is to call up the credit card company and request an increase in my credit limit. If you have a history of making your payments on time and have an excellent credit score, this should be an easy request for the credit card company. The number 9 way to reduce housing cost. Figure out a way to eliminate PMI, private mortgage insurance. Anyone who puts down less than 20% of their home value typically has to pay for private mortgage insurance in addition to homeowner's insurance. This could cost you anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of your loan value annually. So if you have a $400,000 mortgage, you're looking at an additional $2,000 to $4,000 per year for PMI. If you're looking to buy a home, my recommendation is to put at least 20% down to avoid PMI. If you currently own a home and have private mortgage insurance, see if you can pay your loan balance below 80% of your home's market value and apply to remove PMI from your monthly payment. If your home has appreciated in value, that could make it easier to reach that 80% threshold. Of course, understand your lender will send an appraisal to assess your home's value at your expense. However, if you can get rid of that dreaded PMI payment, the cost could be worth it. The number 9 way to reduce housing cost. Max out your home insurance deductible. A deductible is the amount you pay before an insurance company begins to pay on a claim. Lower deductible, most often higher the premium, and higher deductible, lower your premium. Of course, run the numbers and talk to your insurance company, but if you're willing to max out your home insurance deductible, you could be saving quite a bit on your monthly premiums. And for us, given we maintain a pretty sizable emergency fund, we feel pretty comfortable having a high home insurance deductible. And most often, a lot of the home maintenance issues are cheaper to fix myself than going through the insurance company. Number 11 way to reduce housing cost. Master home maintenance. Now, I admit I'm horrible at this. Having worked behind the computer most of my life, I can barely fix a broken sprinkler. One time, it took me 45 minutes to install a new toilet seat cover. And this was after having watched countless number of YouTube videos on it. But if you have the Midas touch when it comes to dealing with home maintenance, doing your own home repair could save you quite a bit with your housing cost. And as I mentioned earlier, if you get stuck, you can always look up YouTube videos. Nowadays, there are so many awesome home DIY creators that provide excellent content on dealing with common problems, such as repairing leaky faucets or repatching a hole in your bedroom wall. The number 12 way to reduce housing cost: reduce your utility cost. Outside of our mortgage and insurance costs, ongoing utility costs such as electricity, heating, and water are probably our other biggest housing costs. If you take some steps to optimize your home, you can not only save money, but do good for the environment as well. Some common and easy ways to reduce utility costs are as follows: replacing old windows with double pane, more energy efficient windows, using energy efficient light bulbs such as LED lights, installing low flow shower heads so you aren't using too much water when showering. If you're creative, there are tons of ways to reduce your energy usage. Thank you guys for watching. In the theme of reducing your household expenses, if you want to learn some tips to run a financially efficient household, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.